Welcome to RCD ShareNet. I'm Ella Huang. I'm happy here to talk to you about accessibility symbols, or sometimes it's called disability access symbols. In our daily life, we use a number of non-vocal communication that includes signs, signals, and symbols. When using symbols in communication, usually the symbol would resemble what it represents. So that means looking at a symbol, you more or less can guess what it is about. In the late 1960s, a number of countries discussed the need for a symbol to designate accessible facilities. Many countries at the time had already developed some symbols on their own, but they decided that there was a need for one consistent image that was clear, recognizable from a distance, and designed with no other meaning. The International Symbols of Access was formally recognized by the World Congress in 1969 and given universal stature in 1974 by the United Nations. The International Symbols of Access, or Universal Access Symbols, are used to promote and communicate accessibility features of places, rooms, programs, and activities for people with disabilities. Now, we want to look at some symbols. Now look at this one. Of course, it is the most common and well-known symbol. It is a wheelchair symbol. And usually we'll call it International Symbol of Accessibility. And in fact, it tells there is access for people using wheelchair. The wheelchair symbol should be used only to indicate access for individuals with limited mobility, including wheelchair users. For example, the symbol indicates an accessible entrance or a washroom or phone that is lowered for wheelchair users. Remember that a ramped entrance is not completely accessible if there is no curb cuts, and an elevator is not accessible if it can only be reached with steps, or an automatic door with the steps leading onto it. Now let us test you how many of you will know some of the more popular used access symbol for disability. Now, looking at this one, the first one, of course, with the wheelchair we talk about and we all know about it. It indicates access or services for people using wheelchairs, including those using mobility devices. So when we look at that, we know that. How about the other two? The ear and the eye. So probably you can guess, something to do with hearing or something to do with seeing, vision. You're right in that. So when you see the ear kind of, is crossed off, but then it's open at the middle, so it's not completely crossed off. It indicates access for services for people with hearing loss. And in the same line, the other one indicates access and services for people with vision loss. So what are we talking about exactly when you show these symbols? It tells you that, if you see the one for the hearing loss symbols, then that might be indicating some volume control telephone or a sound system that is available so that people with hearing loss can hear the amplified voice. And the other one with the vision loss is, large print, contrast, tactile, that enable people with vision loss. They can access programs, activities, or facilities. So showing these symbols indicate access. So that's why it's called disability access symbols. Okay, now look at these three. They're not as common as the other we just saw. So the first one, you see a man with a cane. So obviously it is to do with vision, and you're right. It means access for people with low visions and sometimes for people who are blind. So usually used in places such as a guided tour, a tactile tour, or a museum exhibition that may be touched. Signs and presentation materials produced in contrasting colors and printed clearly in large font, so that you would normally see this symbol. How about the other one with the hand? So it is easy to guess. It's something to do with hand gestures. So that is, you're right. It is sign language. So if you see this symbol, it means sign language interpretation is available. So usually you will see it for a lecture, for tour, for film, performance, conference, or other programs. So when they do that, then you know sign language interpretation is available. How about the last one with the dog? Of course, you know, it is a guide dog. Why? You can see the harness. Then you say, oh, guide dog is permitted. Hey, that is not absolutely correct because by law, guide dogs are allowed in all the places the person going together with the person going with the dog. So when you see this, you probably say that the guide dog is welcome. So what is the gesture of showing that guide dogs are welcome? Maybe you put out a bowl of water for the dog. So that is guide dogs are welcome. Or people working in the facility understand the protocol working with guide dogs. So that means you understand how to provide the appropriate services. Okay, now there are a bit less popular signs here. Well, the first one, because of the word written on it, probably you can guess. When you see this symbol, it means Braille is available. So Braille is the type of communication that people who are totally blind, and by touching, they can actually read what's written on the paper. So they're printed dots. So when you see that, it is very, a good resemble of exactly what it means. Braille is available. How about the other one with the year? So you can see, okay, something to do with hearing, of course. But then you can see a small dot going in, and then it becomes bigger waves coming out. So when you see this symbol, it tells you assistive listening system is in place. So it indicates that assistive listening systems such as infrared, loops, or FM system, or even just an amplification system are available to transmit amplified sound volume. So in this case, it is easy, the voice coming in and then the sound amplified to send out. When you see this one, assistive means, like people using hearing aid, they can change it to a certain mode on the hearing aid and they can receive all the incoming waves in loop or infrared waves, and then that they can hear it clearly. How about the last one? Oh, looks like a telephone and a typewriter. You're absolutely right. It's a telephone typewriter, but it is quite obsolete now because, not a lot of people are using the telephone typewriter. When you see this symbol, it shows that there's a text telephone, TT, or a telecommunication device for people who are hard of hearing or deaf. So that is TDD. But it is quite obsolete because of the technology, with all this texting on the smartphone and everything. Okay, now we come to this. You may not be very familiar with this sign. It looks like two people are talking. You're absolutely right. So this is a symbol for communication access. In 2014, Communication Disability Access Canada developed the communication access symbol that is now used extensively across Canada. The symbol tells people that communication is a two-way process. And it is about interacting with another person. It is about giving as well as receiving information. It is about listening and watching. So communication access means that people can understand what you are saying, and have you understand the message as well. So this convey the message of the willingness to communicate. Sometimes, of course, when we use this access symbol, that may be interacting with a person with barrier in communication. So how can we make the communication work? So we use the communication method that work best for them, such as speech, gesture, writing, pointing to objects or pictures, spelling words, typing on a communication device, or human assistance. And also include all the written information. And also enable the individual, he might be, have a challenge signing their name. Do you find out a way that they can sign the documents and complete forms in a way that are accessible for them? Remember, allow enough time for communication. including online tools like organizations' website and social media, and have ways to access telephone services. Showing the communication access symbol means that business or organization welcome people who have disabilities that affect their communication, will give people the time they need to communicate, will make every effort to understand what people are communicating, will accept the communication method that the person chooses to use. So it's not simply just putting it out there, say we are willing to communicate. It also includes all the action and the provision of different choices available to the person and to communicate their needs, to sign their documents, to complete forms, to understand what you're saying, and for you to understand what they want to convey to you, and also including written information. So that is about all for some of the most popular access symbols. Now we're going to kind of give you a quiz, see whether you can guess the meaning of some of the other symbols for access. Now we want to see some of the other symbols. You may not have seen them, but you may have. See whether you know what they are. The first one we want to look at is this one. Well, it's pretty obvious. What it says there is large print. So when you see this symbol, that means, there are documents presented in large print. So what is large print exactly? We normally call it the accessible print. It is 18 points or larger. So large print is indicated by this word large print, and or bigger. Sans serif or modified serif point with high contrast is important. So it's not just the print, it's also the contrast. Because if the text and the paper, they're more or less the same color, it's very difficult to distinguish the text. So in that case, we want to have good contrast, black on white, white on black, and so on. And special attention should be paid to letter and the word spacing. If it's too close, or you use certain font that with a lot of wriggling, writing, it's very difficult to tell what they are. So accessible prints are basically that. Okay, so the other one, how about this one? You probably will see it, even on the YouTube, you see that. CC, what does it represent? So CC means closed captioning. So the closed captioning symbol indicates that the captions on videos. So closed captioning sometimes can be turned on and turned off. So you go to a lot of the public places where they have the TV going on, they would use the closed captioning. But it is also a very useful feature for people with hearing loss. Okay, the next one, you say, okay, it is very simple. I know all of these. How about this one? Have you seen this before? Okay, so that is a telephone with some waves coming out from one end. So if you see this, that means that is a volume control telephone. So that's not all the telephone sets are able to control the volume. So for some people, they with hearing loss, then a telephone set with volume control is very useful because it can amplify sound and adjust the volume. So that is make it more accessible for people using the telephone, especially for people who are older and with hearing loss. Okay, so the last one, see whether you know this one. It's very difficult. Oh, so what does that mean? Okay, so, sorry, that is the other way. So this way, now you can see that clearer. It's a question mark there. So that is very simple. If you see this, that is the information symbol. So normally when you go to seek some information, they have a counter for people to seek information, that they have the question mark there, then you can go there. So indicates that this is the location for specific information or materials concerning access, such as if you're looking for large print, say program, when you go to a concert or a play, then you're looking for large print program, then you can go to the location with this symbol. They allows you to look at different accessible materials. And then sometimes the audio recordings and materials, or whether that is a sign interpreted tours, or whether that will be, tactile things, exhibitions that you can touch. So that is the information giving you all the access information. So I hope you learned a bit about access symbols today. If you have any question, feel free to put it in the comment below, or you have any symbols that you want to share, let me know, and then we can also look up on that. Thank you and have a good day.